Bonjour and bienvenue. This is Fabulously Delicious, the French food podcast, your guide to the flavors, stories, and secrets of French cuisine. French cooking isn't just about ingredients, it's about technique, tradition, and a little touch of magic. And few things capture that magic better than sauces. The silky, savory, and sometimes surprising creations that elevate every dish. I'm your host, Andrew Pryor. Enchanté.
Enchanté.
Once a MasterChef contestant, and now I call France home. I spend my days cooking, tasting, and exploring everything this incredible country has to offer. It's Saucy September here on Fabulously Delicious, and all month we'll be celebrating French sauces, from classic muffin sauces to regional specialties, discovering why France is rightly called the land of sauces. So, pour yourself a glass of wine, grab a piece of crusty baguette, and get ready to dive into the world where sauces are truly the soul of French food. Welcome to Fabulously Delicious. When you think of French cuisine, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For many, it's not just the baguette, cheese, or wine, it's the sauces. In fact, the French often refer to France as the land of sauces, and it's almost impossible to imagine cooking French food without any. The sauces in French food aren't just an afterthought, they're the soul of a dish. They have this magical ability to transform something quite simple into something, well, extraordinary. A piece of roasted chicken is delicious on its own, of course, but add a rich velouté or a tangy mustard sauce and suddenly it's a restaurant-worthy experience. A humble piece of fish can be refined and elegant when served with a beurre blanc. Even vegetables, perhaps just steamed green beans, come alive when draped in a glossy hollandaise. In French cuisine, sauces aren't about covering up food, they're about enhancing it. They provide depth, contrast, richness, and harmony. They can add brightness with acidity, warmth with butter, or structure with a stock. Essentially, they're what elevate the everyday into something, well, memorable. The obsession with sauce is part of what gives French cuisine its global reputation. For centuries, chefs across Europe and the world have looked to France not only as the birthplace of fine dining, but as the source of the technique and foundation that underpins so much of Western cooking. And sauces sit right at the heart of that. If we step back in time, the story of French sauces actually begins in the Middle Ages. At that point, sauces looked, well, very different from the refined versions that we know today. They were often thick, heavily spiced, and sometimes quite sour. Medieval cooks used strong flavors like vinegars, verjus, mustard, and exotic spices brought through trade. These sauces weren't necessarily designed to highlight the natural taste of meat or vegetables, but instead they were meant to preserve, mask, or even show off wealth through the use of rare spices. But as French cuisine evolved, particularly in the 17th century, the approach to sauces changed dramatically. Chefs began moving away from heavily spiced concoctions and started focusing more on balance, elegance, and the quality of the local ingredients. This was the era of chefs like Varenne, who is often credited with laying the foundations of modern French cooking. Instead of spices dominating the plate, sauces became about refinement, using butter, stocks, herbs, and reductions to complement rather than overwhelm the food. By the 18th and 19th centuries, French aristocrat and courtly dining had elevated sauces into an art form. They became a sign of sophistication, wealth, and skill. Then came Auguste Escoffier. In the late 19th and 20th centuries, the man who systemized French cooking. He looked at the vast number of sauces in use and brought order to the chaos by classifying them into what he called the mother sauces. These 5 foundations, béchamel, velouté, espagnole, tomato, and hollandaise, were like culinary building blocks. From them, countless variations could be made. His system not only simplified the teaching of French cuisine, but it also gave it structure that spread all around the world. By this point, sauces weren't just accompaniments, they were symbols of French culinary sophistication. To master a sauce was to demonstrate technique, patience, and understanding of flavour. They became part of the reason French cuisine gained its reputation as the pinnacle of fine dining. In many ways, the history of French sauces mirrors the history of French gastronomy itself. A move from excess and opulence towards balance, refinement, and timeless technique. Hey food lovers, if you're enjoying Fabulously Delicious, you can support the show and help keep it cooking. Every bit of support helps me bring more stories and tips and French food adventures to you. And as a thank you, I'll send you a little note of appreciation or even give you a shout out in the next episode. You can find the links to support in the show notes of this episode. Merci beaucoup for helping keep this delicious journey going. When we talk about French sauces, it's impossible not to mention what are now known as the mother sauces. These are 5 foundational sauces that Auguste Escoffier defined, and they've become the building blocks of classical French cuisine. First, there's béchamel, a simple milk-based sauce thickened with a roux. It's creamy, smooth, and the base for dishes like gratins, lasagna, and the gooey topping of a croque monsieur. Then, velouté, which is also roux thickened, but uses stock instead of milk. It's lighter and more delicate, and from it, you can create a whole family of sauces from mushroom to seafood variations. The espagnole is a rich brown sauce made with roasted bones, vegetables, and tomato paste. It's complex, deep in flavour, and forms the basis of a demi-glaze, the sauce you'll often find in classic meat dishes. Next is the tomato sauce, which in France ranges from the rustic, provincial style with olive oil and herbs to, well, the more refined Parisian versions enriched with butter. And then finally, the mother of all mother sauces, some might say, the hollandaise. The most delicate of them all, an emulsion of butter and egg yolk. It's the mother of classics like béarnaise, that tangy tarragon sauce we so often see with steak. These sauces aren't just recipes in themselves, they're starting points. From the 5 mother sauces, dozens, even hundreds of derivative sauces can be created. They're the framework on which French cuisine is built, and it's the reason the mother sauces are often described as the backbone of sauces. When you think of French sauces, it seems tempting to picture the grand classical ones from Parisian kitchens or the pages of Escoffier. But really, sauces in France aren't just confined to the world of haute cuisine. They're deeply regional, shaped by local ingredients, traditions, and even climate. If you travel across the country, you'll find that, each region has its own distinct saucy identity, and together they paint a picture of just how diverse French cuisine truly is. Let's start in Burgundy, one of the most famous food and wine regions in the world. Here, it's no surprise that wine plays a starring role in the sauces. Think of sauce bourguignon, a rich glossy red and wine reduction, often flavoured with shallots, mushrooms and herbs. It's the perfect partner for beef. Another iconic example of that is the coq au vin, where the sauce isn't just an accompaniment, it's the entire dish, built slowly from red wine, lardons, and aromatic vegetables. These sauces are deeply complex and hearty, reflecting Burgundy's reputation for robust wines and hearty fare. Wine in Burgundy isn't just for the glass, it's in the pan too, and creates sauces that are as much about the vineyard as they are about the kitchen. But let's travel south to the sun-drenched lands of Provence, and the picture changes, entirely. Here, olive oil takes centre stage, along with tomatoes, garlic, and fragrant herbs like thyme and rosemary. The sauces there are lighter, fresher, and often closer to the Mediterranean cooking than to classical French traditions. Think of sauce vierge, made from tomatoes, olive oil, lemon, and herbs. It's bright, colourful, and perfect over fish or grilled vegetables. And then there's a roulis, a garlicly saffron-tinged sauce traditionally served with the famous provincial fish stew bouillabaisse. In Provence, the sauces reflect the sunshine. They're vibrant, infused with olive oil instead of butter, and they feel as though, they've been kissed by the sea. Step into the French countryside for a culinary escape like, no other. Imagine waking up in a charming French townhouse, the scent of fresh croissants wafting through the air, and the quiet streets of Montmorillon beginning to stir. This is the start of your Vienne residency cooking experience, a journey that blends the rich flavors of French cuisine with the joy of discovering. Your experience includes a beautiful stay and a resting in our 2-bedroom townhouse, complete with a cozy lounge, kitchenette, and all the comforts you'll need to unwind after days filled with cooking and exploring. Then you'll have hands-on culinary adventures with me, and we'll dive into the heart of French gastronomy with a private full-day cooking class here in my home kitchen. Together, we'll create traditional dishes you'll savor for both lunch and dinner. You'll find local discoveries from bustling markets and historic landmarks to nearby gems like Limoges and the Loire Valley. Every day is filled with unforgettable sights and flavors. You'll begin your stay with some warm French hospitality with a welcome aperitif and dinner, setting the stage for a truly special experience. These residencies are entirely private, ideal for 1 or 4 guests and tailored to your pace and preferences. Whether it's your first visit to France or your 10th, you'll leave with a full heart, a happy plate, and incredible memories. Join me May to October here in Montmorillon and escape the ordinary and embrace the extraordinary with my Vienne residency cooking experiences. Ready to start your journey? Visit andrewpryorfabulously.com for more details and to reserve your place. I can't wait to share this little slice of French paradise with you. Heading back up north to Normandy, and you'll notice a very different style again. Normandy is dairy country, and it's famous for its lush pastures and cows. So naturally, the sauces here lean heavily on cream and butter. A classic example of this is a sauce normande, often paired with fish, and it combines cream with cider or calvados, which is the local apple brandy. The result is a sauce that's velvety and rich, but also carries a lovely fruity sharpness from the apples. It's the perfect reflection of Normandy itself, where the sea meets the orchard and cream finds balance with apples and cider. This combination of land and sea is unique to Normandy and makes its sauces some of the most distinctive in France. Then there's the southwest of France, a region known for indulgence thanks to the love of duck, goose, and foie gras. The sauces here are unapologetically rich, often enhanced with duck fat or foie gras itself. A classic example would be the sauce Périgord from the Périgord region, made with truffles and often enriched with foie gras. It's luxurious, earthy, and deeply decadent. You'll also find sauces that use Armagnac, the local brandy, to add warmth and depth to meat dishes. And in the southwest, sauces are about boldness, generosity, and celebrating ingredients that are as rich in flavor as they are in tradition. And when you look back at all these regions together, Burgundy, Provence, Normandy, the southwest, you start to see how much geography and the local produce shape French sauces. Wine-rich Burgundy produces wine-rich sauces. Olive oil-drenched Provence gives us lighter, sunlit flavors, and dairy-loving Normandy leans into cream, butter, and apples. The southwest, with its love of duck and foie gras, gives us decadence and depth. That's one of the beauties of French cuisine. It's never just about technique, it's also about terroir, that sense of place. The sauces aren't random or uniform. They're both from the soil and the climate and the traditions of each region. And when you taste them, you're not just tasting a sauce, you're tasting a part of France itself. Today, French sauces are still considered an essential part of culinary training. In fact, if you go to almost any professional cooking school, whether it's in Paris, London, or New York, one of the very first lessons you'll be learning is the mother sauces. Students learn the techniques of making a roux, emulsifying butter and egg yolks, or carefully reducing stock, because, well, mastering these sauces is seen as mastering the very language of French cooking. But outside of the professional kitchen, their role has shifted. In modern French home cooking, you don't always see elaborate reductions or complex demi-glazes simmering away. But instead, everyday sauces tend to be simpler, like a quick mustard cream for chicken or a vinaigrette for a salad. The tradition of sauces is alive, but it's often more about practicality and speed in daily life, whilst the grand, time-consuming classics are now preserved in restaurants and haute cuisine for most. Internationally, the influence of French sauces can't be overstated. Everyday favorites like gravy, cheese sauce, or even mayonnaise all have their roots in French technique. Whether it's bechamel turning up in a lasagna, hollandaise on an eggs benedict, or vinaigrettes on salads, around the world, these sauces have travelled far beyond France's borders. They've become part of a shared culinary heritage, proving that the French obsession with sauces truly shaped how we cook everywhere today. So when you look at it all together, sauces really are the soul of French cuisine. They're not just an addition on the side of the plate, they carry history, tradition, and technique. And while at the same time, they lift even the simplest dish into something memorable. Whether it's a rustic cider sauce from Normandy or a perfectly silky hollandaise, each one tells a story of place, skill, and flavour. And this is just the beginning. Over the next few episodes, we'll dive deeper into some of these sauces, like bechamel, hollandaise, and velouté, to uncover their secrets, their history, and how they're still being used today. So if sauces are the heart of French cooking, then this series is all about getting to know that heartbeat a little better. Yesterday marked a very special milestone. 10 years since my very first food tour to France, back in September 2015. I had the absolute joy of showing a fabulous group of Australians and Americans around some of my favourite food spots in Paris, Dijon and Lyon. It was such a memorable trip, filled with laughter, incredible meals, and the kind of food adventures that stay with you forever. I can't wait to cook with you all here in Monty. I've even had the pleasure of welcoming Deb, who was one of the tour attendees. So that just means that there's still 5 of you left to come visit. I'm sure Deb will come back as well. Here's to more delicious memories together. Auguste Escoffier said, "A good sauce is to a dish what a frame is to a painting." And that's a wrap for this episode of Fabulously Delicious. What's the most fabulous thing that you discovered about French sauces today? Whether it's a fun fact, a new technique, or a deeper appreciation for how sauces transform a dish, I'd love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs on Instagram at Andrew Pryor Fabulously, or you can send me an email at contact@andrewpryorfabulously.com. Let's chat about sauces, French cuisine, or anything delicious. After all, food is one of the best ways to bring people together, don't you think? If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share it with friends, family, or anybody who loves French food as much as we do. Your support helps keep the Fabulously Delicious journey going. And if you're feeling extra fabulous, leaving a review is a wonderful way to help more food lovers discover the show. Thank you so much for joining me for this kickoff of Saucy September. Your love of French food and culinary traditions inspires every episode, and I'm thrilled to have you along for this flavorful adventure. Remember my motto, whatever you do it fabulously. Merci beaucoup, and as always, bon app. Until next time, au revoir.